Opposition MPs want the inquiry into Havelock North's gastric illness outbreak to go further. Labour leader Andrew Little isn't too impressed either, and he's with me now in the Wellington studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
What is missing from the terms of reference in your view?
Actually, my view is that I think the terms of reference are broad enough to encompass the sort of areas that we need to know about. We need to know what the causes were, and we need to know whether the authorities, both local and central government, responded in a timely manner. Those are the critical things. And then we need to know if there's anything that will help any other local authority in terms of managing their water supply.
What do you think is a crucial thing to look at here?
Well, we have to know what the source of the contamination is to the best extent we can, and so we're going to need good science to establish that. And then we need to know, what was the ideal time to have triggered, emergency sort of procedures. I think there's some question about whether the response was effective enough at the time that it was triggered, or whether it should have been earlier. I think that is a genuine question. We need to know what the answer to that is.
If we can also talk about the Māori King and what he had to say in the last few days. Should he have waded in to the political arena and said what he did?
Well, that's a matter for the Māori King and his advisors. I'm in the political arena. I deal with other political parties. There is a contest between the Labour Party and its Māori MPs and the Māori Party. And I think, as we saw in the last election, when we grew the number of Māori MPs in the Labour Party, a lot of Māori are looking on at the Māori Party and saying, what is shackling yourself up to the national government actually delivering? Because it's not delivering a great deal.
But do you think the King should be neutral?
In the end, that's a matter for the King and his advisors. I enjoyed the hospitality I had at Tuaranga Waiwai on Sunday. He made a speech. In the end, in the political arena, I've got to deal with other political parties and other political players, and there is a contest on about what role has the Māori Party performed in the last 8 years, shackling itself to the national government. It hasn't delivered a great deal.
But where is this coming from, in your view? Is it coming from Te Rangi Morgan?
Listen, it's not for me to speculate where that's coming from. The statements were made, and there'll be a good debate about it, as there should be.
But is that not quite relevant here, though? Because he is president of the Māori Party. Is he not, in this case, the power behind the throne?
Well, as I understand it, the Māori King has a council of advisors. There is a number of them, so he'll be getting advice from a number of quarters. For me, that's not the issue. The issue is the contest that is there between the Māori Party now and the Māori MPs in the Labour Party. And we have 7 of them. We represent 6 of the Māori seats. 4 of them are in my shadow cabinet, 2 are on the front bench. The Māori representation inside the Labour Party is a permanent fixture and feature of the Labour Party. It's not just an add-on as it is with the National Party.
Isn't this, though, quite a difficult position for you to be in? There's a major figure in the Kingitanga movement, Nanaia Mahuta, who is one of your prominent MPs. But if Labour doesn't have the King's support, that sits rather curiously.
Nanaia is an excellent MP. She's done a fantastic job in the time she's been in Parliament, continues to do so. We have other fantastic Māori MPs in the Labour ranks as well, and they're doing fantastic work. You look at Kelvin Davis, Peeni Henare, Meka Whaitiri, Adrian Rurafi, Reno Terekatini, Lewis Wall. They're all doing fantastic work. They're a strong team. They bring strong advocacy on Māori issues to our caucus, to our shadow cabinet and to the front bench, and they'll continue to do that. They're a permanent feature of us. We don't tack on Māori representation as the National Party does with the Māori Party.
What about the call for the Māori Party and the Mana movement to work more closely together? Is that something that would seem to be a bit worrying for you?
No, well, that's a matter for those parties. I mean, the Māori Party has declined in representation in Parliament in the last
But would that not solidify
Māori
Māori support elsewhere, potentially?
Well, you've got to look at the track record. I think Māori do look at the track record. In the end, it was Māori voters who decided they didn't want Hone Harawira, for example. It's Māori voters who decided they would reduce the representation of the Māori Party in Parliament. They make that decision, and that's life, because I think a lot of Māori have looked on and said, actually, we aren't getting much out of this relationship between the Māori Party and the National Party. The National Party has been exploitative and patronising to Māori interests in the Māori Party, and Māori have had enough of it.
Just something else while you're here. Have you ever been bugged, to your knowledge?
I don't know, and I heard the Prime Minister's comments. I think on these sorts of issues, the Prime Minister is routinely loose as a goose on this stuff. He just says stuff and it gets a headline. I have to say, I doubt very much whether he's been bugged, certainly internally in New Zealand. What happens overseas, and particularly visiting foreign countries, who would know? But it's typical John Key, say something outlandish that who knows whether it's true or not, and see what happens, and that's what he's done on this occasion.
So you think he's lying when he says that he's been bugged here?
I don't trust him when he says he's been bugged in New Zealand. And he knows he can say that and then not have to give any evidence, because then he'll claim that there's confidentiality and security interests and all the rest of it. It's classic loose as a goose, John Key.
Thank you very much for your time. Andrew Little.